أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته المنتجبين. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: وإن كنتم في ريب مما نزلنا على عبدنا فأتوا بسورة من مثله وادعوا شهداءكم من دون الله إن كنتم صادقين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلى على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. The definition of a miracle is any beneficial event that is statistically unlikely but not contrary to the laws of nature. That is how a miracle is defined. It's statistically unlikely, but it doesn't go against the laws of nature. So a couple of examples of a miracle. Surviving a natural disaster is considered a miracle. There's an earthquake, an entire building collapses, and everyone dies. But there is a 5-year-old child found under all of the bricks, alive, after a week of the incident. That is called a miracle. Another example of a miracle: surviving an illness diagnosed as terminal. So someone, for example, has stage 5 of cancer, and all doctors say that there's no hope. All of a sudden, that person is cured, and the cancerous tumor goes away, and that person is absolutely fine. This is considered a miracle. A third example: escaping a life-threatening situation. Your life is extremely in danger. You're facing, for example, a pack of wolves out of nowhere, out of the desert, and they've surrounded you, they're about to attack you. All of a sudden they go away, and they decide not to eat you. They decide not to attack you. That is considered a miracle. Now, there's lots of miracles that we believe were performed at the hands of certain prophets and certain imams. The Quran speaks of many miracles. Prophets, family members of prophets, they performed miracles. For example, Prophet Abraham, he was thrown in the fire by the king of his time, Namrud, yet the Quran says that he was not burnt. قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. We told the fire, Allah says, we told the fire to be cool and to be cold for Ibrahim. Ibrahim was not burnt into that fire. The Quran tells us of the miracles of Moses, Prophet Musa. Prophet Musa namely had 2 miracles. One is that his hands would glow, they were full of light. And 2, he had his cane, he had his stick that would turn into a huge serpent. قال ألقها يا موسى فألقاها فإذا هي حية تسعى. Allah ordered Musa to throw his cane. When he threw it, it turned into a snake or a large serpent. Prophet Jesus, the Quran tells us, had miracles. He would cure the blind. He would bring back the dead. He would cure the ill. أَنِّي أَخْلُقُ لَكُم مِّنَ الطِّينِ كَهَيْئَةِ الطَّيْرِ فَأَنفُخُ فِيهِ فَيَكُونُ طَيْرًا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. The Quran says that Jesus would have clay, and he would mold it in the future of a bird, and he would blow in it, and it would turn into a bird with the permission of God, بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. وأبرئ الأكمه والأبرص وأحيي الموتى بإذن الله. And I cure the akmah. Akmah are those that are blind, that are born blind. والأبرص are those that become blind later on, or those that are what do you call them? Albinos. Right? They're all white, even their eyelashes, their hair, it's a form of, it's an illness, right? Jesus Christ had the ability to cure them, to bring back the dead. The Quran says, بإذن. These were all miracles. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi also had miracles. One of his miracles was the crack in the moon. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. The Quran says, alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah. Rasulullah was able to crack the moon. Among his miracles was the day that Amir al-Mu'mineen was not able to pray Salat al-Asr. The Prophet was able to bring back the sun for Amir al-Mu'mineen to pray Salat al-Asr. It's a famous hadith. Hadith Radd al-Shams, as it's known. It's a very well-known hadith. When Rasulullah brought back the sun for Imam Ali to pray Salat al-Asr. And so on and so forth. The question is, do you believe in miracles? Are miracles real? Are they true? Or they're fake? Are they possible? Are miracles possible? The miracles that we've learned about in the Old Testament and in the New Testament and in the Quran, the miracles of prophets and the miracles of imams as well, or karamat, are they real? Because there's some people that say, this is ridiculous. You telling me that Jesus used to bring back the dead, and Abraham was thrown in the fire and he was not burnt, and Moses had a cane that would turn into a snake? Get real. This is all fake. This is fiction in our scripture. This is not real. Well, is that true? Is it really fiction? Or are these miracles real? Or are they possible? We live in the 21st century. We live in the age of science and technology and mass communication. We live in the age of the internet. Should we still be believing in miracles? Are they real or are they fake? This is our topic tonight. Of course, my argument is that miracles are real. And they are possible. They are even scientifically possible. This is our argument. But tonight, let's look at the various opinions. Let's see those who argued against the miracles. What did they have to say? Those who believe in miracles, what do they have to say? And we'll come up with a conclusion. Also, is the belief in miracles, is it just with Muslims? Is it only Muslims that believe in miracles? Or do other followers of world religions, they also believe in miracles? That is what we will find out tonight. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. There are several rational and scientific thinkers in the West that argued against the possibility of miracles. They said they're not possible. They are physically and scientifically impossible. Miracles would require the violation of established laws of physics. For example, the laws of gravity. They would have to divide that law. Or the law that for every cause, there's an effect. And for every effect, there's a cause. Miracles, they defy those laws. For example, Thomas Jefferson, the principal author of the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America, he did not believe in miracles. In fact, he edited a version of the Bible in which he removed the sections on miracles. He went, he looked in the Bible, wherever there are stories of miracles, he took them out. And he edited a new version of the Bible free of miracles that contained supernatural aspects. And he said, this is not from God. These are from the 4 evangelists that wrote the Bible. The actual Bible does not contain miracles. This is Thomas Jefferson. David Hume, a well-known thinker, he wrote an essay called On Miracles. And he argued against the possibility of miracles. He said, miracles don't exist. They're not possible. And this is how he defined a miracle. He said, a miracle is a transgression of a law of nature. It's going against the law of nature. It's transgressing the law of nature by a particular volition of the deity or by the interposition of some invisible agent. So it's either God or someone else that's transgressing the laws of nature. And that's not possible. And then he says, no testimony is sufficient to establish a miracle. So even if 100 people, they come and tell you, we saw a miracle take place, you can't believe them. That's not enough for them to prove a miracle existed. Even if 1,000 people come and tell you that we saw a miracle took place, that's not possible. Unless, he says, unless the testimony be of such a kind that its falsehood would be more miraculous than the fact which it endeavors to establish. So he says, unless it's such a huge number, to say that they're false, that would be more miraculous, right? To accept a miracle would be more plausible than to deny, the truthhood of that big number. So basically what he's trying to say is, even if a huge number tells you that a miracle took place, it's not possible, right? James Keller, also a well-known author and thinker, he argues against miracles. He says that if you believe in miracles, then you believe that God is unfair and God is unjust. Why? Because miracles happen to some people and they don't happen to others. So if God saved you in a car accident where you would have to die, right? You fell off a cliff and the car, kept on hitting and it went on fire and you miraculously survived. Well, there's a lot of other people that die in car accidents. So why is it that God saved you and performed a miracle on you and he saved your life while there's a lot of other people that die in car accidents and they're not saved? So to believe in miracles, that means you believe in an unjust and unfair God. This is James Keller. Thomas Paine, a founding father of the American Revolution, he also argued against miracles. And he believed that two people talk about miracles. Imposters who preach about miracles in the Old Testament and the New Testament, and fools who believe those imposters. He said all the tales of miracles with which the Old Testament and New Testament are filled are fit only for the imposters to preach and fools to believe. So if right now I'm telling you about miracles, I'm an imposter. And if you believe me, you're fools. Right? Whoever believes that miracles are fools, and those who preach of miracles are imposters, according to Thomas Paine. Ethan Allen, an American Revolutionary War patriot and hero, he also argued against miracles, and his prime thesis was this, that miracles, who believes in miracles? The uneducated, the ignorant. But those who are educated, they won't believe in miracles. And those parts of the world where learning and science have prevailed, miracles have ceased to exist. But in those parts of it as are barbarous, and ignorant, miracles are still bold, and they still exist. So these are some thinkers that argued against miracles. And there are some from the West, from Western thinkers, that believe miracles are normal, and they do exist. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. For example, the British mathematician J.E. Littlewood, he suggested that individuals should statistically expect 1 in a million events, called miracles, to happen to them at the rate of about 1 per month. So statistically, mathematically, miracles are possible. Not only are they possible, but you should expect one once every month. So they are possible. The famous thinker Spinoza, he also claimed that miracles are law-like events whose causes we are ignorant of. There are some that argue against miracles because they are ignorant of the cause of that miracle. Just because we don't know what sparked that miracle, why that person was rescued from a car accident, or how that person who was in stage 5 of cancer survived. Well, me and you don't know the cause. There must be a cause. There must be a scientific cause. Just because we are ignorant of the cause, we shouldn't say that miracles are impossible. C.S. Lewis, William Lane Craig, and other 20th century Christians have argued that miracles are reasonable and plausible. Sallu ala Muhammad wa alihi. Now, do other religions believe in miracles? Absolutely. Christians believe in miracles. Catholics believe in miracles. Jews believe in miracles. Buddhists believe in miracles. Right? I don't have too much time to go over all of these religions, but I'll start with Christianity. The Gospel records 3 sorts of miracles performed by Jesus. Number 1, exorcism. Jesus had the power, to perform exorcism, cures, and natural wonders. In the Gospel of John, miracles are referred to as signs. And this is very interesting because the Quran also refers to miracles as signs. Ayat, min ayatina, our signs. Right? In the New Testament, the greatest miracle is the resurrection of Jesus, the event central to Christian faith. Jesus explains in the New Testament that miracles are performed by faith in God. If you have even little faith in God, you can move mountains, as Jesus says in the Gospel of Matthew 17:20. Catholics are firm believers of miracles. They believe that they are either the works of God directly or through the prayers and intercession of specific saints. One saint or specific saints. A saint like, for example, the Virgin Mary can ask God to interfere and save the life of someone. That is a miracle. That is possible. In fact, the Catholic Church has listed several events as miracles, some of them occurring in modern times. The Pope recently visited Portugal and he visited the city of Fatima, right? There's a site there, the Lady Fatima, she's known for performing miracles, right? That's why she's a saint. In Catholicism, if a special religious person was able to perform 2 miracles posthumously after death, if they were able to perform miracles, they will be considered what? Saints. Saints. So that's why if you have a lot of saints in Catholicism. Why? Because they perform miracles. Similar to our belief of shafa'ah, intercession. Because they interceded on someone's behalf, they are considered saints. Sallu ala Muhammad wa alihi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In Judaism, there's the belief of miracles. The Old Testament records several acts of miracles. For example, Elijah, he raised a widow's dead son. That was a miracle. Elisha, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right or wrong. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing it right. He multiplied the poor widow's jar of oil and also restored life to the son of a woman of Shunem. These are all miracles. The Torah also describes many miracles related to Moses during his life as a prophet, and the exodus of the Israelites, parting the Red Sea, the facilitating of the plagues of Egypt are also among the famous miracles, and interestingly, they exist in the Quran as well. We believe that these were miracles performed by Musa, the parting of the Red Sea and the plagues of Egypt. These were all miracles that are mentioned in the Quran as well. Sallu ala Muhammad wa alihi. So from this exposition, you can tell that the belief in miracles is not restricted to Muslims. There's lots of people that believe in miracles: Jews, Christians, Buddhists, Catholics, maybe people that are not so religious, they're not so practicing, but they believe in miracles. Now in Islam, what is the purpose of miracles? Why? Why do prophets have miracles? And interestingly, each prophet had his own miracle, right? Musa alayhi salam had his cane and had his hand. Light would come out from his hand. Isa alayhi salam, Prophet Jesus, he would cure the ill, he would cure the blind, he would bring back the dead. Prophet Muhammad, he had his miracle. And his miracle was what? The Quran. We believe the Quran is the miracle of Prophet Muhammad. What's the purpose of miracles? Right? To prove the validity of the prophet. How do you prove that you're a prophet? How do people believe you? Just by saying that I'm sent by God, that could be a joke. You could be an imposter. How do you prove to people that God actually sent you? By a miracle. Right? By performing something that no one else can. Moses was able to prove himself to Pharaoh and others by doing something that none of the other magicians could. Right? As soon as they saw the great serpent, they immediately prostrated to God, and they realized that this is not what? Magic. The Pharaoh was telling everyone that Moses is a magician. The magicians, they saw that that's not magic. That was a real serpent. They prostrated to God and they believed in God. So too with resurrecting the dead with Jesus. Who could resurrect the dead? You might be able, as a doctor, you might be able to cure the sick, but you cannot resurrect the dead. You cannot give eyesight to the blind. So it has to be something that no one else can to prove that you have been truly sent by God. That is the purpose of miracles in all religions. Sallallahu alaihi Muhammad. Now, among Muslim scholars, there was a debate that are miracles real? Are they possible? Or are they not possible? So this debate was going on. And specifically, there are two main scholars that are known to have discussed miracles. One argued against, and one argued for. The one that argued against is the famous philosopher Ibn Rushd. Ibn Rushd was a philosopher. And there's a great deal of philosophers. They say that miracles are not possible. They're not possible. And as for the miracles that exist in the Quran, the New Testament, the Old Testament, they have to be given a metaphoric interpretation. We can't take them literally. So for example, Musa parted the Red Sea. That's not literal. We have to mean, it has to mean that Musa was able to swim, or he was able to found another route to cross the Red Sea. For example, right? Ibrahim fell in the fire and the fire didn't burn him. That's not possible. Right? It has to mean that Ibrahim fell in an area where there was no fire. Right? Or he was burnt, but it didn't kill him, and so on and so forth. So we have to give metaphoric meanings to these miracles, because miracles are not possible. Why? For philosophers, everything has to be logical. They say that every effect has to have a cause. And every cause has an effect. Fire has to burn. It cannot not burn. Right? So how can you not burn in the fire? Every cause has an effect, and every effect has a cause. While miracles, they don't have causes. A person who does not die from an earthquake and an entire building fall on his head and he does not die, how is that possible? Right? So they say that's not possible. And they argued for reinterpreting these miracles. This is Ibn Rushd in his camp. And philosophers like him. While on the other hand, there was a scholar by the name of Al-Ghazali. Al-Ghazali argued for miracles. And he said that miracles are possible. Why? Because, yes, we agree that for every cause there's an effect, and for every effect there's a cause. But just because you don't know the cause, you are ignorant of the cause, it doesn't mean that there is no cause. Right? We are ignorant of the cause. Right now, we have knowledge of certain laws of nature, laws of gravity, laws of physics. Right? But there are other laws that are yet to be discovered. They are yet to be discovered. And we human beings, we're evolving. Our knowledge is evolving. And it's advancing. Maybe 100 years from now, 200 years from now, we will discover a fire that doesn't burn, for example. And we'll discover causes for these miracles. So just because you and I are ignorant of the cause of this miracle, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. It's my ignorance. Don't put the blame on the miracle. Put the blame on your ignorance. This was the ultimate argument of Al-Ghazali, and he's absolutely right in arguing that miracles are possible. Just because we don't know the cause of that miracle doesn't make it impossible. We are taught that miracles, they're not impossible. There's a saying, scholars say, al-mu'jiza khariqa lil-'ada, that miracles violate the law, they violate the norm. They don't violate logic. And they don't violate reason. They're not impossible. They don't violate the laws of nature and physics. They violate the norm. Normally, a fire burns. But you could have a fire that doesn't burn. You could have a unicorn, a flying horse. That is possible. It's not the norm. It's not the convention. It's not conventional. But is it impossible to have a flying horse? No, it's not impossible. Logic doesn't say that it's impossible. Yes, our eyes haven't seen it. It's not normal. It's not impossible. Impossible, even according to philosophers, impossible is to have two opposites at the same time. That's impossible. For it right now to be day and night, that's impossible. Because those are two opposites. Opposites cannot, happen at the same time. This wall cannot be white and black at the same time. Yeah. That's not possible. That's illogical. But for a fire not to burn, or for a unicorn to fly, a flying horse, that's not illogical. It's not impossible. Right? So that's why they say al-mu'jiza khariqa lil-'ada. It goes against the convention. It goes against the norm. But it doesn't go against science. And we believe there are laws of nature that are yet to be discovered. Just because we haven't discovered them today doesn't mean that they don't exist. We will discover them, sooner or later. Also, we have to draw a distinction between a karama and a mu'jiza. A miracle and a karama. A karama is a blessing. These are two different things. What's the difference between a blessing and a miracle? A miracle has a challenge to it. When a prophet performs a miracle, he's challenging others. He's telling them, listen, I'm proving to you that I'm a prophet. I'm God sent. How? By this miracle. If you say I'm a liar, if you say I'm a magician, why don't we see you try to perform the same miracle that I did? Right? So miracles entail a challenge. Prophets are challenging others. They're trying to prove their truth and their validity through miracles. While blessings, karama, they don't have a challenge. They don't necessarily have a challenge. Our imams had a lot of karamat. Right, Imam Ali alayhi salam, Imam Sadiq and others. They had a lot of karamat, blessings. He would cure the ill. He would cure the sick. This is not a miracle. This is a karama. Right? Because he's not challenging it here. It's a gift from God. So the actual term for this is not a miracle. It's a blessing. The Quran tells us that the Virgin Mary, Maryam, the mother of Jesus, she had karamat. For example, she was at a mosque. She lived inside a mosque. She would worship all the time. Zachary, Prophet Zechariah, whenever he would come and visit her, he would see what in front of her? Food. And he would ask her, where are you getting this food? And she would say, from God. كلما دخل عليها زكريا المحراب وجد عندها رزقا قال يا مريم من أين لك هذا؟ من أين لك هذا؟ قالت هو من عند الله إن الله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب. This is from God. And God gives sustenance and rizq to whoever He wants without being accountable. بغير حساب, without counting. This is a karama for the Virgin Mary, Sayyidah Maryam al-Adra. And we believe in karamat. If the Virgin Mary is capable of blessings, Fatima al-Zahra is not capable of blessings. The daughter of the Prophet, or Sayyidah Khadija, or our Imams, Imam Ali, and Imam al-Hassan, and Imam al-Hussein, they are not capable of karamat. What? If it's possible for some people, for special people, it's possible for other special people as well. Right? I'm astonished to see some people, they accept karamat and miracles for some, but for others, they deny them. Why? There are some Shia, there are some followers of Ahlul Bayt. They say, don't talk about karamat of Ahlul Bayt. It's impossible. It's only for the Prophet. Now, who said it's only for the prophets? Maryam was not a prophet. She was the mother of a prophet. Yet she was capable of a karamat. Sallu ala Muhammad wa alihi. As I said, a miracle has to be challenging. Meaning, it should be something that others are not capable of doing. Jesus alayhi salam, if everyone else was able to cure the blind and bring back the dead, then it wouldn't have been a miracle. If everyone had sticks during the time of Moses and they could turn them into serpents, it wouldn't have been a miracle. The miracle of our time and the miracle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the Quran, the blessed Quran. Sallu ala Muhammad wa alihi. How is the Quran a miracle? The Quran, in its eloquence, in its depth, in telling the future, in the scientific revelations that exist in the Quran that tells us about the past, and it tells us about the present, and it tells us about the future, the linguistics, the Arabic language, the grammar, the perfect choice of words. That is a miracle. That is why the Quran itself challenges others. The verse that I began with. وَإِن كُنتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ. If you doubt the Quran and you doubt our Prophet, you doubt our Messenger, try to make a Quran. Try to bring a Quran. فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ. Try to bring a chapter, not the entire Quran. The Quran has 114 chapters. Try to write a chapter like one of the chapters of the Quran. You can't. During the time of Imam Sadiq, alayhi salam, 4 men gathered in Mecca. They're famous men in Arabic history. They decided to write a Quran to challenge our Quran. They decided to write a book that would challenge the Quran. So they decided to meet the year after, at the time of Hajj, and to bring their books, and they would challenge the Muslims. And they would tell them no longer to believe in the Quran. They departed. A year later, they gathered, all 4 men, empty-handed. You have a book? No. You have a book? No. Were you able to write something? No. And they all described why. One of them said, I came and I started reading verses about Noah and Abraham and all the previous other prophets. And I thought to myself that Muhammad was not there. He did not see these events. Who was there to know these events other than God? So I know that this is from God. The other one said something else. The other one said something else. And they all admitted that the Quran could not be handmade. It could not be humanly written. It's not written by a human being. It's by God. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam passed by. He said, do you see now that the Quran was not written by any human being? It is by Allah Azza wa Jal. And he recited to them verses like this. فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ وَإِن كُنتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ. The Quran calls miracles signs. Signs. بِآيَاتِنَا. And the greatest sign that we have today is the Holy Quran. Till today it's a miracle. What it offers the scientific facts, the nature of the Quran, the guidance that it entails, it's a miracle for us. صلى على محمد وعلى بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم ادخل على أهل القبور السرور، اللهم اشفي كل مريض، اللهم داوي كل جريح، اللهم اكسو كل عريان، اللهم اشبع كل جائع، اللهم اغني كل فقير، اللهم اقضي دين كل مدين، اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك، وغير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك، واقض عنا الدين واغننا من الفقر. اللهم اني اسالك ان تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من الامر المحتوم في الامر الحكيم، من القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل، أن تكتبنا من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور حجهم، المشكور سعيهم، المغفور ذنوبهم، المكفر عنهم سيئاتهم، وأن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر أن تطيل عمري في خير وعافية، وتوسع في رزقي، وتجعلني ممن تنتصر به لدينك ولا تستبدل بي غيري. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان، أو يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه، ولأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والعلماء والشهداء. نقرأ سورة الفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد.